Kavanaugh's second accuser testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Deborah Ramirez says the Supreme Court nominee exposed himself to her when they were students at Yale. Kavanaugh denies that allegation and allegations he sexually assaulted Christine Blasey Ford, and he did that on Fox News.
We're talking about an allegation of sexual assault. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. I did not have sexual intercourse or anything close to sexual intercourse in high school or for many years thereafter. And the girls from the schools I went to and I were friends.
So you're saying that through all these years that are in question, you were a virgin?
That's correct.
Never had sexual intercourse with anyone in high school?
Correct.
And through what years in college, since we're probing into your personal life here?
Many years after. I'll leave it at that. Many years after.
Now, to be clear, neither Christine Blasey Ford nor Deborah Ramirez have accused Kavanaugh of unwanted intercourse, but we'll hear from at least one of Kavanaugh's accusers on Thursday. Caitlin Collins joins me now, and she's going to talk about what that hearing might look like. Have there been any hard and fast decisions made?
No, and there are still a lot of questions about what exactly that format's going to look like, and more of those questions have been raised even today with the press secretary, Sarah Sanders, saying that they welcome Deborah Ramirez, the second accuser, to come forward and testify and tell her story as well. That is certainly not an idea that's been popular with Republicans on Capitol Hill so far, who do not believe her allegation is substantial enough to warrant her also coming on Capitol Hill to testify alongside the professor, Christine Blasey Ford, who was the initial accuser for Brett Kavanaugh. So now it's really an open question of what that's going to look like. But what we do know is that in the time before Thursday does happen is that the White House is really launching this full-scale campaign against these allegations now, starting with President Trump himself tweeting last night that he believes these were false accusations, essentially implying that he doesn't believe either of these women are telling the truth when they are accusing Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault or sexual misconduct. So that is really setting the tone for the rest of the White House, who are saying that this process doesn't need to be dragged out and they need to speed it up and hurry it on, essentially echoing Republicans on Capitol Hill are saying that there should be this testimony on Thursday, but from Senator John Gordon saying, let's go ahead and vote on whether or not to confirm him to the Supreme Court just one day after those testimonies happen up on Capitol Hill.
Okay, so we eagerly await what exactly happens on Thursday. Caitlin Collins reporting live. Thank you so much. In that Fox News interview, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, along with his wife, he was insistent on one point. Kavanaugh says he wants to be treated fairly. In fact, he said the word fair 24 times.
I am looking for a fair process. All I'm asking for is a fair process where I can be heard. Again, just asking for a fair process where I can be heard and I can defend my integrity. Again, I'm just asking for a fair process where I can be heard and defend my integrity and defend my family's integrity. Fair process, let me be heard. Fair process, hear from both sides.
Okay, so Kavanaugh described himself as a church-going virgin in high school, despite yearbook captions suggesting Kavanaugh was a hard drinker. He was part of the 100 Kegs or Bus Club. He was also part of the Beach Week Ralph Club. His college roommate, James Roche, told a local affiliate this, quote, Kavanaugh was a notably heavy drinker, and he became aggressive and belligerent when he was very drunk. That, of course, does not mean Kavanaugh is guilty of anything. Patti Wood joins me now. She's a body language expert. She watched Kavanaugh's interview in full last night. Patti, just in general, how did Mr. Kavanaugh come off?
Well, interesting, not as emotional as you would think somebody would be that's accused of these crimes, that has these allegations against them. In fact, very repetitive, very robotic, and that indicated that he'd been highly coached, and he wasn't surprised at any of the questions, which also indicated he knew what the questions were ahead of time, and he was able to prepare for them.
So you think he knew every question ahead of time? Because I thought she did a pretty good job.
It's interesting, because I've analyzed the congressional hearings. I know what his baseline is, what his norm is, and how long he typically takes before he responds to a question. And throughout this interview, he's responding immediately, not a match to his normal baseline.
Okay, so you picked out certain things that Brett Kavanaugh said to analyze, and I have some of those things now. So I'm going to play the first bit of sound from Brett Kavanaugh, and then we'll analyze it on the other side. Here goes. Here it is.
I am looking for a fair process, a process where I can defend my integrity and clear my name. And all I'm asking for is fairness and that I be heard.
Okay, so while we're talking about this and what exactly he said, you're looking specifically at the body language. So we're going to play that in slow motion, and you tell us what we should be looking for.
Great. Now watch his head as he, in that second statement, he says, all I want is fairness. Watch the way his head moves. He's actually shaking his head no when he's saying, all I want is fairness. He's shaking his head no. And so
why is that important?
It's very important because that's a limbic system response. It's not a conscious decision to shake your head no, and it really indicates, in alignment with what he said, that he doesn't want fairness. He wants something other than fairness. And it's interesting that he used that statement, well, specifically the statement, I want fairness, 17 times during the interview. And he didn't ask for what most innocent people would ask for, and that is a thorough investigation. What he's asking for 17 times is, I want fairness, I want to clear my name.
That's right, because at no time during this interview did he say he wanted the FBI to investigate any allegations.
And if you're innocent, you would find out. Talk to everybody. I want you to find out. And in fact, he doesn't do that. It seems odd, and he's so unemotional as he's making these statements. That's again very odd.
Judge, okay, so this is the second bit of sound that Brett Kavanaugh said on Fox News that you took issue with or analyzed. So let's play sound from Kavanaugh number 2.
I've spent my life in the judiciary, our judicial system. And part of the judicial system, as I've said during my hearing, was process protects you. That's what judges believe. That's what our system is built on, the rule of law.
Okay, so thoughts on that?
That's what is called a smooth lie. He made the statement, I spent my life on the judiciary. That specifically means as a judge. Well, we know that's not true. Even biographies that he has given people state clearly that in his career he only spent a small amount of time as a judge. He was a consultant, he was consulate, he was an advisor to Bush. So that's a lie, and you see how smoothly he states that. His paralanguage, his voice tone, tempo, and speaking rate are even. He even smiles as he adds on to that statement. So we know he's a smooth liar, and that he redefines terms. So on the judiciary, he's made that mean something else, which means later in the interview, his choice of words become much more important to analyze. So sexual assault, for example, has he redefined that term? Can he make a smooth lie of the term sexual assault?
Okay,
that's exactly.
That's getting,
it, right.
That's getting to your third example of what you wanted to point out from this interview. So let's run the third thing that Judge Kavanaugh said that we want to analyze.
Where's this all coming from?
I just want a fair process where I can be heard.
You don't have any thoughts on where this is coming from?
I just want a fair process where I can be heard, defend my integrity, defend the integrity of my family. I'm telling the truth.
You don't want to talk about where you think this is coming from?
I just want an opportunity, a fair process where I can defend my integrity.
Okay, so what do you see in that bit of sense?
Well, actually, he started when she asked him, where do you think this is coming from? He actually states, we didn't see that, I don't know. Here's what's interesting. That very day, before he was on this TV interview, he sent a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee and said, I think this is a conspiracy, they're out to get me, something to that effect. So
the Democratic conspiracy, it's all political.
Yes, that's what he
said in the letter.
That's what he said in the letter. He wrote that, he sent it. A few hours later, he's on this TV interview, and he's saying, I don't know, I just want a fair process. Again, we see a distinct difference in what the truth is, what he said already in a letter, and what he's saying on this TV show. So, and he says it very smoothly and very calmly. And a police interrogation, that's a red flag. He's able to do this. He's able to do very carefully and considered and repetitively a smooth lie.
Now, once he testifies before the Senate Judiciary Committee and he's questioned by Democrats and Republicans alike, he may get more pointed questions and may not be able to kind of talk around the answer.
I would suggest that they question him thoroughly, as I would train my consulting clients, my business clients, my law enforcement clients. So when he uses terms like sexual assault, let's define that, sir. What do you think that means? Or redefine it for him. I'm not asking you about sexual assault. I'm asking you about what you're accused of with Ford. So I would break down those terms because we know how he changes terms.
Interesting. So I hope you'll come back after Thursday
Yes.
and help us again, because that was really fascinating. Patti Wood, thank you so much. Of course, we're waiting on a decision from the Bill Cosby Senate.